Today I will brief you on matters which were considered by Cabinet at its meeting last Tuesday, and will indicate to you some important decisions which were made at Cabinet. Cabinet was first briefed on the recent terrorist attack in Paris, France, that resulted in the loss of hundreds of innocent lives. It was noted that the government of Guyana had issued a very strong statement of condemnation against the attack, expressed solidarity, and extended condolences to the government and people of France. The government is resolved to ensure that no form of religious extremism will be allowed or tolerated in Guyana, resulted in the type of loss of life which occurred in Paris. Cabinet was also informed of the passing of Mrs. Angela Johnson, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Public Security. Her long and dedicated public service career and hard work were noted, and condolences extended to her family, relatives, and staff of the Ministry of Public Security. Cabinet recognized the importance of infrastructure in contributing to the good life for all Guyanese. It therefore devoted considerable time at that Cabinet meeting in deliberations on its no objection role in the award of contracts, in particular in the area of public infrastructure. On that day, Cabinet gave its no objection to over $2.9 billion worth of contracts in the public infrastructure and related areas. Cabinet also recognized the efficiency with which the Ministry of Public Infrastructure was able to bring projects up to the contract stage in a short period of time. It will be recalled that Cabinet had mandated on one of its previous meetings the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Public Infrastructure to do an evaluation of the work done at the Cato Secondary School. It will be recalled that Cabinet had made certain statements with respect to the quality of work and the amount of money involved in that school. That evaluation, Cabinet was advised by the Minister of Public Infrastructure, was complete, and that a report will shortly be sent to Cabinet for its consideration. And in that regard, Cabinet therefore granted its objection to contracts totaling over $55,047,000 to the Cato Secondary School. These contracts had to do with the delivery and supply of furniture for the school in the sum of $13,981,000, a contract for the delivery of furniture for the teachers' living quarters in the sum of $3,668,000, and a contract for the delivery of furniture for the students' dorm in the sum of $16,158,568, making it a total of $55,047,000 in contracts for Cato School alone. Cabinet then sought to give its no objection to several other contracts. One for the supply and delivery of equipment for the use of the Force Accounting Unit of the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. That is the unit that's responsible for road building that are not contracted out to any private contractors. This is the government unit that's responsible for that. And so Cabinet gave us an objection to the purchase of equipment to the value of $174,300,000 for that unit to do quite a number of the works that they're doing. In fact, some of the work you're seeing in your communities in Georgetown and so on, that's the Force Accounting Unit at work. In fact, they work day, and sometimes you see them working at night as well. And I think that's a very good thing. Then Cabinet looked at the contract for roads, the rehabilitation and construction of urban roads. In Region 4, Cabinet approved of the sum of $66,839,000 for the Water Street Tiger Bay Road Network. This contract was awarded to Associated Construction Services. Then we looked and gave our no objection to contracts in the sum of $32,804,000 for the West Rheinveld Road Network. So the West Rheinveld Road Network, and that contract was awarded to Colin Talbot Construction Services. Further, Cabinet gave us an objection to roads in the Sophia area, and this I know will be quite interesting. The ring road at Patterson, Greater Georgetown, $12,420,000 allocated to that. The Cummins Lodge Old Road, $21,736,000. Contract awarded to Puran Brothers Disposal, Inc. In the Sophia area in particular, 8 contracts were awarded to be executed, and that include roads, bridges to connect up the community, and street lighting. The contract for Dennis Street Eastern Highway to Defield Sophia, contract in the sum of $194,868,000. That contract was awarded to Colin Talbot Construction Services. Lot A, Field Sophia Main Access Road, $41,710,000. A contract awarded to Courtney Ben Contracting Services Limited. A Field to D Field Sophia, the roadway link, $155,106,470. Contract awarded to B&J Civil Works. A Field to B Field Sophia, which is the ring road, $82,885,060. Contract awarded to Ivor Allen. B Field Sophia to C Field Sophia, the ring road, $37,352,000. Contract awarded to Ivor Allen. C Field to D Field Sophia, $87,841,602. Contract awarded to Courtney Ben Contracting Services. E Field Sophia, the main access road, $38,310,900. Contract awarded to Ivor Allen. The continuation of sections of E Field Sophia, the Sophia main access road, $34,384,000. Contract awarded to DV Dalip Enterprises. For the rehabilitation of access roads and bridges at Laluni and Kurukururu, to Luluni Farmlands, Region 4, $160,813,000. Contract awarded to B&J Civil Works. The upgrading of access roads and bridges at Perica to Namrik Cross Dam in Region 3, $193,479,000. Contract awarded to Mohammed Ramzan Ali Construction. The construction of riprap river defense at Spring Garden, Essequibo Coast, Region 2, the sum of $35,471,000. Contract awarded to Mohammed Ramzan Ali Construction. The execution of slope protection works along the river defense at Road and Rust, East Bank, Essequibo, Region 3, $31,240,350. Contract awarded to Mirage Construction Services. The creation of a diversion channel and a timber and timber revetment along Meadowbank Outfalls, that is Georgetown, Region 4. A sum had previously been allocated of $13 million, and there was an additional $8,620,000, bringing the total sum to $21,625,380 for that project. The supply and driving of cluster piles for the Demerara Harbor Bridge. The contract awarded to Geigo Construction and General Services in the sum of $30,725,000. The fabrication of 20 pairs of connecting posts for the Demerara Harbor Bridge, $19,500,000. Contract awarded to Courtney Ben Contracting Services Limited. For the procurement of laboratory equipment for the Ministry of Public Infrastructure and Material Laboratory, $67,212,000. Contract was awarded to Colin Talbot Contracting Services. For the renovation of the official residence of the Prime Minister, the sum of $29,328,078. The contract was awarded to Ivor Allen. For the procurement of spares for vessels belonging to the Transport and Harbors Department, the sum of $276,551,298. This contract was awarded to Brenco Shipping and Trading Company Limited. You will recall that at a previous press conference, I did indicate that the Lady Nordcote was being taken in for refit, and that vessel was to go into the Northwest. Well, the vessel is completed. It's going to be handed over to the Transport and Harbors Department on Monday, and by the middle of next week, that vessel should be back on the Northwest District Trail. You would also recall that at that meeting, I indicated to the press that we were looking at other possibilities, and that search continues. But I would like to say also that we now have a line of credit from the Indian government for the purchase of 2 new ships for that route, and we're actively pursuing that arrangement. We had a contract for the rehabilitation of Orton Embankment from Christina's Loss to La Prudence on the East Bank Berbice in Region 6. That contract was in the sum of $20,500,000 and was awarded to Alvin Choritmutu Construction Services. For the procurement of HIV rapid test kits for the National AIDS Program at the Ministry of Health, you recall recently there was some report made about the shortage of this particular item. $35,100,000 contract awarded to Caribbean Medical Supplies, Inc. And for the production and publication of notices for the local government elections in 2016, Cabinet gave us no objection to the award of a contract in the sum of $92,008,440 to Troy Tech Video Productions, and for a sum of $10,408,076, a contract awarded to Guy Enterprise Limited. My dear friends of the media, you would recognize that there's quite a number of contracts Cabinet gave us an objection to, and we are quite satisfied with the pace at which the Ministry of Public Infrastructure has actually dealt with bringing these matters up to the contract stage. It is our hope that once these contracts are awarded, that work will commence before the end of 2015, so that all of these communities can see activity taking place. They can see steps taken by the government to make sure that they have a better life. In all of these communities where we are building roads, we're also putting in lights, and we're ensuring that these roads are asphalted roads, so that there's no run-of-the-mill stuff that will be done here. The Ministry of Public Infrastructure have actually included in the work which they do a sort of an inspectorate division that will be inspecting the quality of work in all of these communities. But what I would like to do here is to take this opportunity to encourage residents in these areas to be the watchdog over the work that is being done in their communities by contractors. It makes no sense a contractor getting a contract, he's being paid the money, and the work is not done to the specification, and then the community complain afterwards. We're encouraging the communities to become involved in this. This is all part of the whole process of government funds or state funds being expended for the benefit of the Guyanese people, and we're asking the Guyanese people to become involved in what is happening in your communities. So hold these contractors to a standard. Check on the work that they're doing. When the inspectors from the Ministry of Public Infrastructure come around, you can report to them. Or alternatively, report to your NDCs, report to the RDCs, and ultimately report to the Ministry of Public Infrastructure on the work that is being done in your community. It is the eyes and ears of the community that will ensure that the contractors do the work that they're required to do and in the manner they're required to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen of the media, this is what I would like to say this morning in the press briefing, and I'm going to take questions from you at this point in time.
Adam Harris, Prime News, sir. Extensive contracts, a lot of money. Is there a correlation, sir, between the award of these contracts and the provision of jobs? I ask you this because there's a talk that there are no jobs, and obviously you have a lot of contractors. Labor is should be in abundance. Is there a way the nation can see an improvement in the job situation, sir?
Well, this is the expectation of Cabinet, that the injection of these funds into these projects will create employment. Because what we've asked the contractors to do is to ensure that in the communities where they work, that there's a certain amount of local labor employed from those communities. So this again is what I'm asking for the Guyanese citizens who are out there in whose communities these works are being done, that you insist and ensure that this is done. Because all of this is part of giving the economy that injection of cash. That injection that will ensure people are put to work, the contractors are put to work, the people who provide the goods and services are put to work, and that the people out there who require work, that they get that work. So this is why we've actually injected now into the economy an additional $2.9 billion for these contracts.
Good morning, Jim Paul, iNews. Mr. Harmon, can you say when the members of the discipline services will get their Christmas bonus? And also, when the increases for ministers were first announced, you had said you had no apologies to make. Do you have any regrets over that statement?
Okay, two things. The joint services, the discipline services, usually that's a statement, announcement which is made by His Excellency the President. So the President, at the appropriate time, will make that announcement. You'll recall that this is what used to happen in the past. The President, sometimes they go to the soldiers' Christmas lunch and they make these announcements. So I do not expect it will be significantly different, but that is something which is in the realm of the President. Now, in relation to statements, I think that has run its course. It's run an entire course, so I don't know why you want to take us back there. It's run its course. I have made a statement in front of all of you. You'll recall the circumstances under which it was made. I said I had no apologies to make to the PPP, but in the event that the Guyanese people felt offended by my statement, then to the Guyanese people, I would say, if they felt hurt or offended by it, I will say that I apologize to the Guyanese people, not to the PPP, because I don't believe they deserve it.
Fanu Manik Chan, the Guyana Times. Mr. Harmon, can you confirm the reports of diplomatic postings and whether there are any additions? And secondly, one of government's member of parliament, Mr. Charandas, had made a comment to the women's rights activists. How can you give a reaction from government side? I don't know if you've...
Okay, well, I will say this, that the diplomatic appointments are made by His Excellency the President. The process requires a recommendation from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and it goes to the President, who will deliberate, and then the matter comes to Cabinet. Cabinet will then give its final statement on the matter. What I can say to you right now, as far as Cabinet is concerned, that we have no recommendations for diplomatic postings before the Cabinet. I think in another section of the media, I did indicate that the only ambassador that had come before the Cabinet had given its approval for was Ambassador Cheryl Miles, who was posted to Venezuela. The matter of Mr. Charandas, I don't think I have all of the facts on that and would not want to venture into a statement on it, but I believe that at the appropriate time, a statement will be made by Mr. Charandas or on behalf of Mr. Charandas by the government or by the party of which Mr. Charandas is a part.
Mr. Harmon Radmotilal, NCN. You mentioned here that apart from asphalted road, lights will be installed. Can you say whether this will now be a new feature of all road contracts, and how will it be addressed in communities where roads are already built, the lightings, and just on the lightings too, will the bills be absorbed by the NDCs or subsidized by central government?
Well, the contracts all have their own particular features. We have insisted in these contracts, in particular for certain communities, that contract, the installation of streetlights, become a part of that. I cannot say that it is a general rule across all of these contracts, because some of the contracts, are awarded by, the funds come from international agencies, and the agencies will stipulate what is it that they want in the contract itself. But as a general rule, we would like to see communities with proper roads, proper lights, proper water facilities, and so that the whole aspect of physical security in those communities are catered for. So that while it might not be a part of every single contract that the government does, I believe that it is the government's intention to ensure that every community receives that facility. It is part of the good life that we talk about. And many of you, if ever you travel from abroad and you come by night to land at Timeri, if you fly over Trinidad and you fly over some countries, you see lights all over. But then when you come to Timeri, you see just one string of lights going into Georgetown. I think we need to change some of these dynamics. And if we want to provide a good life for all of our Guyanese people, in the development of these communities, these are features which will have to be there. This is the reason why in this administration, we moved away from a Ministry of Housing to the Ministry of Communities, because we believe that housing is a part of a community, and that the community must comprise of things other than just housing, must comprise of green space, must comprises schools, comprises health facilities, comprises police stations and all of these things. So it's a total package. So that when we look at a community, we see all of these things. And we don't just see some house lots allocated in the back of nowhere, and you're placed there, now people got to fight to get water, they got to fight to get light and so on. This is not the way we believe that development planning should take place.
Singer and Chronicle. Sir, Lady Northcote, could you say, well, Minister Patterson would have said there was some delay with the vessel because there were additional works and so. Could you say how much additional money was injected into this project? And secondly, can you confirm whether budget 2016 will be presented in January?
Well, budget 2016, I think Minister of Finance, Minister Jordan, will deal adequately with that matter. But we are looking at an early budget in 2016. I can't say precisely whether it will be January, February, or what, but the minister has already given that indication in the public that it is intention to bring the budget for 2016 very early in the new year. So that's where that is concerned. And the other question was about the Lady Northcote. Yes, the Lady Northcote required some additional work, but you know what happens is that sometimes a vessel goes in for docking, and you anticipate that it's going to cost so much. Sometimes it costs that amount or a little more, or sometimes it costs less. Now, in some one of the dockings, I believe either of the MV Kimby or some of the other vessels, there was a savings of a couple $1 million. And that money, I'm advised by Minister Patterson, would have been allocated to the purposes for the Lady Northcote and the MV Kimby, which will be going in for docking very soon.
Gildari Kaito News. 6 months has passed this week since the administration entered government. How would you rate yourself? And secondly, Marriott Hotel, could you give us an update as to the performance?
Well, I can't give you an update on the performance of the Marriott. It's the Marriott has a management team, and there's a board of directors that's responsible for the Marriott right now. I do not have, at least Cabinet is not in possession of an assessment of the Marriott as to how it stands, how it's performing. But I believe that you understand that it is the intention of government not to be involved in the business of hotel management. And therefore, some formula will have to be found that basically allows government not to be engaged in the day-to-day management of a hotel. I don't have the specific details as to how well the hotel is doing, but that is much as I can say to you now, that it is our intention not to be engaged in the day-to-day management of a hotel, and that the Minister of Tourism would have already given you some indication as to the direction in which government is going to move with a hotel. Rate yourself. Rate ourselves. I think that this question of giving yourself a rating is something that is always goes up and down. Once I remember you were asking me to rate how the APNU was performing, how the AFC was performing, how the government was performing. I think we are doing very well based on the circumstances which we have faced. I think we have taken the reins of administration of government. We have found our infrastructure. You see why we have to spend so much money on infrastructure already. In the first 6 months of our administration, $2.9 billion. You found that the vessels that run to the Northwest District, the Lady Northcote, the amount of money we've had to spend on repairs and maintenance. So a lot of what we're doing is basically groundwork. We are preparing the nation, the cleaning up that is taking place all across the country. This is work that you do not cater for initially. But we believe that if you want to move a nation forward, that you must have ground cleansing. As if you want as an individual to move forward, you cleanse yourself first and then you move on. Those of you who were born in the 50s and 60s would know after the school holidays, before you go to school in September, your parents give you a dose of Cenapod and salts or castor oil. And they clean you up before you go back to school. So it cleanses you to receive the education that's going to come for the next period of time. So I believe as a nation, we need to clean ourselves. And I'll give you a little anecdote. A few weeks ago, I was traveling. I was coming from the United States on a flight. I met two former ministers of the ANC administration in Trinidad and Tobago. One of them who I went to law school with. And then he introduced me to the other minister who was sitting next to me. And the minister said, he said, Joe, is your name? I said, yes. He said, you're all up on a good track, you know. Guyana is moving. I said, well, why did you say that? He said, anytime a nation starts to clean up, you're moving in the right direction. And we have had to do quite a lot of that. And this is the opinion of a former minister of government in Trinidad and Tobago, looking at Guyana from a distance. And this is what he is seeing. And this is what a lot of the Guyanese people in the diaspora, they're seeing. This is what a lot of people internationally, they're seeing. Yesterday, I had a visit from the British defense attaché to the region. He's based in Jamaica. And himself and the British High Commissioner here were moved to make these same comments because they see Guyana from afar. And as you can see it, you can see the changes that are taking place. Sometimes when we are in it ourselves, we do not see these changes because we are in it. But when you look at it from a distance, you see what is happening to Guyana. You see what is happening in our foreign policy. You see what has happened to our standing internationally. So all of these are things which are happening, and they sometimes do not affect your daily bread immediately. But these are all elements which are necessary for us to make that take off. And I believe that based on what we have found, what we have done, and where we are now, that we're doing a very good job.
Adeli Rampersad, Guyana News Network. The opposition has said that it will not be engaging the government in national unity talks. They have highlighted certain conditions under which they are willing to attend these talks. Is the government willing to examine these conditions so as to forge ahead with the unity talks in the interest of moving the country forward?
Well, I'll say this, that we campaigned on the basis that Guyana needed national unity. We felt at all stages that a government of national unity is what is needed in Guyana, because we did not believe that any party gaining 51 or 52 or 53% can claim that they have 100%. In some countries, when people get 33%, they celebrate. You know, when you looked at the Canadian elections recently where Mr. Trudeau won, Mr. Trudeau's party got 30-something% of the votes, but he won because of the way the structure is. But you cannot claim to have 100% when you have 33% or 51 or 52%. And so what we felt when we looked at the whole political landscape, we felt that unless we are able to engage the energies of all Guyanese, that you will never be able to move this country at the pace which is required for us to catch up with the rest of the world. We are, based on our resources, based on our geographic space and everything else, we are not really where we should be in 2015. I made the point that in 1966, when we became independent, Singapore became independent in 1965, 1 year before us. Singapore, with less resources than us, was a third world state just as we were at that time. Between 1965 and 2014, Singapore was transformed to a first world state. I recommend the book by Lee Kuan Yew on Singapore from third world to first world. But there was heavy investment in the human capital of that country, heavy investment in the public service of that country. And this is what we are doing. The establishment of a public service staff college that we're doing here, exactly what Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel on several things when you want to move your country forward, because there's example, there are precedents in the world as to how you do that. So what I would say that insofar as the unity talks are concerned, we are open to the talks. We continue to be open to the talks. And it is really up to the PPP and the PPPC to really come to the table. We bend back as far as we could. If there are conditions which the PPP set out, we will look at them. We will look at them objectively. But what I would not wish to do is to comment on statements that are made in the media. I've said before that as a responsible political party, if the PPPC, they have concerns about something, there are mechanisms within which they can express those concerns to the government. They can write the government, or the leader of the opposition himself has access to the president, that those things can be communicated. And that is the way I believe responsible governments, responsible political parties operate. You don't just get up one morning, on a Monday morning, and decide that national unity can't work because A, B, C, D, and you just release it in the newspaper. Because we have to think these things through. You have to think, if you're serious about national unity, you don't just get up every morning and then change the goalposts as you go along. The first meeting that we had with Mr. former President Jagdeo, the leader of the opposition, he made certain statements, certain commitments, that this is what they will do, and that they will not engage in certain activities until these forensic audits are completed. He said that at the first meeting that was held with the president. We had laid out at least 5 issues which we felt were important for the parties to discuss and to consider, and he chose one, and then therefore the others are still to be dealt with. But you can't come every week and throw out a new menu of measures and asking the government to look, unless you do this, we can't do that. And then next week when you're dealing with it for a set, you come with another set next week, the following week. So we have to be serious about these things. And national unity to us is not an option. National unity is a requirement, it's a prerequisite for us to move this country forward. And so we do not play around with it, we do not play around with words. We are serious about it, we are serious about our engagement with the opposition on these matters, and we remain open to conversations with the opposition to see how best we can move this country forward. Social cohesion is not just a gimmick to us. It is a serious matter, and this is why a minister was appointed to deal with social cohesion. An entire section of a ministry dedicated to that purpose, to demonstrate the seriousness which we place on national unity and social cohesion.
Kingsley Barron, Nightly News. Minister Harmon, there was a recent report that suggests the financial audit being conducted on NISIL recommends its closure. I'm wondering, with NISIL being the type of institution that it is, what possible actions would be taken by your government to address this situation?
Well, the first thing is this, is that you have to start on a premise that the report that you have is an accurate one. That we have to start that way. Because sometimes I find in the media and in other places, we build a house, we build an entire article on somebody said this, and then a whole set of speculation going down the road. We have to ensure that the basis upon which we build our articles, our reports, is a sound basis, that there's a statement by the auditor who would have done the audit, a statement by somebody who is in authority that says this is what the position is with NISIL. And until such time we have at least that groundwork established, to me it is mere speculation to say this is what we will do and this is what we wouldn't do. It's like starting to build a house from the first floor and you don't have a foundation as yet. So in that regard, what I would say is that the audit on NISIL, I am on the board of NISIL, that the audit has not been sent to the board as yet for its consideration. And that until such time that that statement is made or the auditor who has actually done the audit is concerned, until that is done, then I would reserve any statements on that issue until we actually have a factual basis from which we can proceed.